Shalom, saints.
Shalom.
I want to welcome all the Musiq, wherever you are, across this great planet, watching this Shabbat service of the Most High, here with the multitude of Christ ministry. I go by Raah. It's my reader, Maka'al. We greet you in the name of Elyone, El Shaddai, the creator of creators, the only one true Savior. So we welcome you to this Bible study lesson. Here at the MOC, we seek to teach all nations of people how to find true salvation according to the Holy Scriptures. So if you've been following along, we're at part 4 of the series, When Jesus Christ Was Born. Listen, don't worry about no solar eclipse, no CERN, no rockets, no cicadas, no whatever is going on that distracts you from the word of the Most High. Today is the 29th day of the conjunction month. This is the Shabbat of the Most High. That is all you should be worried about. Khan. And so today we're going to be ever focused and stayed on his word. We teach through the Bible, through history, through the lost books to get understanding on how to gain true salvation. So we welcome every one of you. What we're going to do is we're going to open up with a scripture reading from Psalms 150. We're going to have a song selection from our music ministry, and we'll get right to the Bible study lesson. Is that all right with you? So let's stand. Let's face towards Jerusalem. We'll repeat after Brother Maka'al as he reads Psalms 150. Go ahead when you're ready. All right.
Praise ye El.
Praise ye El.
Praise ye El Elyone.
Elyone.
Praise El in his sanctuary.
Praise El in the sanctuary.
Praise El in the firmament of his power.
Praise El in the firmament of his power.
Praise El for his mighty acts.
Praise El for his mighty acts.
Praise El according to his excellent greatness.
Praise El according to his excellent greatness.
Praise El with the sound of the trumpet.
Praise El with the sound of the trumpet.
Praise El with the psaltery and harp.
Praise El with the psaltery and harp.
Praise El with the timbrel and dance.
Praise El with the timbrel and dance.
Praise El with the string instruments and organs.
Praise El with the string instruments and organs.
Praise El upon the loud cymbal.
Praise El upon the loud cymbal.
Praise El upon the high sounding cymbal.
Praise El upon the high sounding cymbal.
Let everything that hath breath.
Let everything that hath breath.
Praise El.
Praise El.
Praise ye El Elyone.
Praise ye El Elyone. Allah El.
Allah El.
Sisters and brothers, you may be seated. Get your note-taking tools and Bibles ready. We will be right back with part 4, When Jesus Christ Was Born, right after this song selection.
All right, all praises. So the only thing we worried about is this holy Shabbat. Ain't that right, y'all?
All right.
Don't worry. Don't you worry. Don't worry. Don't you worry. Don't worry about a thing. Oh, well, I'll take care of you. Don't you worry about a thing, 'cause he will see you through. Sometimes you're high, sometimes you're low, but I know where you need to go. Seek out El to heal your soul. Give it to him and let him take control. When you are hurt, call on his name. He can remove all of the pain. When no one else will come around, look to El, he won't let you down. No, you got to, what they gotta do? Believe and have some faith. Hey, you got to trust him, make a way. Don't worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. No, no, no. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. Oh, well, I'll take care of you. Don't you worry about a thing, 'cause he will see you through. Sometimes the world can treat you bad, but count it all joy and don't be sad. He can give you strength. Oh, yes, indeed. The power to fight all your enemies. Trust in El, the battle's won. Believe in his power and it shall be done. Now give him thanks and all the praise because of his works and his mighty name. Oh, you got to believe and have some faith. Hey, you got to trust he'll make a way. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. No, no, no. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. Oh, well, to take care of you. Don't you worry about a thing. 'Cause he will see you through. Through well, come on, y'all. Through well, we can do all things, you know. He sees your needs before you call. His grace and mercy will be on time. You know it's always on time. And you will be just fine. What we gotta do? You got to believe and have some faith. Hey, you got to trust and make a way. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. No, no, no. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about a thing. Oh, well, we'll take care of you. Don't you worry about a thing. 'Cause he will see you through. Oh, don't worry. Sing it, everybody. Don't you worry. Don't worry. Don't you worry. All praise to the Most High.
Allah.
Great selection. Don't worry. Sisters and brothers, Hasatan, Diablos, he doubling down, tripling down on his deception to keep you in fear. And you know, if you're living in fear, you're not living in faith.
That's right.
If you're living in fear, you're not trusting and believing in the Most High.
Absolutely.
If you live in fear, then you should know you are not living right. So here at the MOC, man, we strive not to live in fear because we know in the end it's all according to the Most High's will.
That's right.
So with that said, let's get into a quick recap so we can figure out where we were. We'll get a cursor. There we go. Where we were over the last 3 weeks. All right. Let's go through number one. I'll go ahead.
The date when Jesus was born.
So we started out part one talking about Jesus was supposed to be born December the 25th of 180.
4
BC. Anno Domini, before Christ, before Common Era, somewhere where they established his birth.
Right.
4 BC-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then part number two, go ahead.
Typology versus allegory.
We started talking about typology, which is using Old Testament people and events to establish Christology or the coming of Jesus Christ.
Right.
See, you got to understand, everybody's saying Christ, which means Mashiach is anointed.
Yes.
So, but now in Christianity, when you say Christ, it automatically refers to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you forgot all the hundreds and thousands of other Mashiachs, Messiahs, anointed ones.
Yes.
But when you hear Christ, say act like it's a last name.
That's
like Jim Smith, like Jesus Christ is his last name. That's his full name, which is just an epitaph. It's just what he is. He is supposed to have been a Messiah and an anointed one, right? So if you want to create a whole new anointed one, like David Koresh, then you just start saying that he is the Christ, right? His name David Koresh, but they're saying he was the Messiah.
Right, right.
And there's so many other Messiahs in Africa and Asia, all over the world. There are people pretending to be a Messiah.
That's
Typology, right. Totally different than allegory, using symbols and imagery like unto something, metaphor. Totally different, right? Than a typology. Typology, you're trying to solidify an event or a person in the future from a past person or event. You got it? Number three?
Number 3 is King David and Messiah.
So we started talking about in depth in the typology of King David, how in the Tanakh or in the Old Testament, it's saying David is the king.
That's right.
David is the savior. David will be raised up in the latter day. He is the Messiah. Then we went through all these other Messiahs, right? And then we talked about all the other typology. Jesus to Moses, Jesus to Joshua, Jesus to Joseph, Jesus being compared to all these people as if they were the forerunner. Jesus the second Adam. Wait a minute, was he the first Adam? No. If that was Adam, then how could he be a second Adam if he's without sin? So they tried to, who's they? Seminary and those that are in control of the scrolls who trying to substantiate the New Testament are using these people and events to give validity to the birth, life, and death of one Jesus Christ, right? Then you bring Paul after him to try to solidify that, yes, he came into me and gave me a whole new teaching at Damascus. Whereas the Elohim or the Most High El of the Old Testament, he said, there is me and there is none else besides me. There's no God by me and there was none created other than me.
Other than him.
So we got a conflict in teaching. But like we said, people are going to stay in cement where it's comfortable for them, stuck in mud, saying they know the truth, but they only know the truth they're comfortable with their social gathering and their group, which could change, right? Go ahead. Number 4.
Number 4 is warning the people.
So as we go through part 1, part 2, part 3, we start talking about warning the people, like Ezekiel said. If I don't warn you, then the blood is on your hands. If I don't warn you to stop being stuck in your doctrine and start searching for the truth, right? We're all spiritual, but our religious denominations and our doctrine is what separates us. Because you get a charismatic leader, he starts throwing money around, starts saying he's blessed, starts paying people to have miracles, get up out of wheelchairs, run around, say I'm cancer free. People buying this stuff, hook, line, and sinker. Somebody got to warn you of these false prophets. You can't come up in 2024 doing the same scam Benny Hinn did in the late 80s and 90s and expect people to believe it. How do you stay in there when Benny Hinn comes and says, man, I was lying. I ain't had the power of God. I didn't heal none of those people. I didn't do none of those miracles. I didn't have the power of the Holy Ghost on me. But the people that was his understudies still keeping the drift and the scam going.
Yeah.
Right? Number 5.
Number 5. Remember the days of old.
We got into part 3 talking about remembering the days of old, right? Our elders, our fathers that have been removed from the house, they are the ones that we were supposed to have been getting generations of knowledge from. We never need a book. We didn't need no internet. If you think about it, Abraham was sitting under Nahor, Eber, Shem. No, they was all alive at one point. Could you see a head and then his sons and then his grandsons and then his grandsons and their family? I mean, that's a community. That's a church. That's a people. And they all sitting up listening to the head who is led by El Shaddai himself.
That's right.
Right? Number 6.
Number 6. Predestination versus predetermined.
So we get into part 3 and we start talking about how these typologists, how these theologists, how these people stole the scrolls and they started to predetermine history from what they wanted it to be, as opposed to predestination being the will of the creator. You understand? Predestination would be the prophecies given by the prophets of old and things to come to pass, i.e. there are things in the Bible that have already happened that Christianity is teaching will happen. You understand? And then they got it in error. They have us waiting on a Messiah. But if he already came 2,000 years ago, who are you waiting for now? Because prophecy didn't say he was coming twice.
No, sir.
You understand? The destructions of Jerusalem, the plagues and pestilence, a lot of the things that Christianity is teaching people to wait on has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Many things have already been predestined and have already happened. But if they keep you looking for the boogeyman, right? The deceiver, the diablos, the Hasatan, his job is to manipulate and deceive. If he can keep you looking for a savior that has not come yet,
Right.
or look for signs and wonders that some have already happened,
Mm-hmm.
and some are to come, but many have already happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you're not understanding typology, you don't understand allegory, you don't understand context, time and date, chronology being moved, somebody's predetermining the story that was given to us 300 to 600 years after the so-called death of this Messiah.
That's right.
They said he came.
Mm-hmm.
They said he was born. Who? The enemies of Israel.
That's right.
Said he was born, said he came, then added a whole bunch of paganism into it. Now everybody is trying to keep Jesus, change his name, and make up their own new doctrine. A lot of it you can't even read, but then what you can read is just a rewrite of what was already was. These people already existed. The Jonahs already existed.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah's prophecies already existed. You understand? David was already here. A lot of these monikers and titles and epitaphs given to Jesus was already given to King David.
That's right.
He was the man after the Most High's own heart.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua already led the people into the promised land.
Come on, Doc. Come on,
Moses
man.
already led them out of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus can't come and lead. See, if Jesus led the people, are going to lead the people like Moses did, when is he going to do it? Because he didn't do it when he came.
Did.
You understand what I'm saying? Predestination
Mm-hmm.
versus predetermined. He said we was going to lack knowledge, and we truly do, right?
Absolutely.
You looking up for a 4-minute eclipse. Got nothing to do with the prophecy saying the sun and moon be darkened for 3 days. I mean, one thing don't add up with another. So what are you scared about? The eclipse, the missiles, CERN, the cicadas? Like, what is it? The dollar crashing? Like, they got you all scared about everything at one time. But the pestilence and plagues and violence that was written in Matthew, we're going to get into it, sisters and brothers. It's already done happened. So why are y'all waiting for Matthew 24 to happen? And it already happened.
Already happened.
Why y'all waiting for Luke 20 and 21 to happen? It already happened.
Already happened. Mm-hmm.
That's just a recap. Let me calm down. Let's keep going. I'm gonna tell a whole lesson in the recap. Let's look at some definitions. Because now we looked at in part 3 how actually man has been the one deifying himself all of history.
Mm-hmm.
The Egyptians did it. The Sumerians did it.
Mm-hmm.
The Greeks did it.
Mm-hmm.
The Romans did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden we expect the Christians not to deify themselves.
Why not?
Yeah, truly, the people in these churches worshiping the man that's in the pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
You're reverencing and giving him reverence as an intercessor and a medium between you and the Most High, and he ain't leading you to the Most High. He ain't even leading you to do the Most High's will. Today, why would the Christian church, they just had church yesterday on Sunday, why would he now demand you to come today? What are you worshiping on Eclipse Day? Because you don't know that today is the real Shabbat. Yesterday was the Lord's Day, so why would a pastor demand you to come to church on Solar Eclipse Day?
Mm-hmm.
Like it ain't solar eclipses every year.
Every year.
What's so big about it now that you can see it, except you just go out and see it and go on about your business? But while we closing schools, while we making everybody come back, paying for parking, like what are you looking for? And then when you buy all these things and they scare you to death and nothing happens, then now you, with your pride, you're going to go back in your house or go back to work feeling ducky, as my sister say. You're going to be feeling some kind of way like, oh man, they that got me out of my last 500 that I went and bought sanitizer, Clorox wipes, water, tissue. They done got me on this survival kit like the world was going to end and the world just moved on.
Would have brought all the canned goods.
You know, went and bought all the canned goods. Walmart is empty. They done made certain counties national disaster areas.
Yeah.
And if a disaster don't happen, except some trash on the highway, then what?
Mm-hmm.
See, it don't make no sense for a God to ever come in the form of man.
That's right.
A God would never give up his power to be human.
That's right.
But what we can't grasp is that it's always been man claiming to be God.
That's right. That's it.
That's all we fighting over right now. That's the thing that separates us, is our understanding that it is man and the story of a man saying he's God. But we won't understand that God would never make himself less than what he is. Because it would in that instant make him no longer the Almighty.
Right.
Why would I be equal or less than my creations? It makes no sense. But to the foolish.
Mm-hmm.
So read the definition of deification, because we went there, right? We started showing that Julius Caesar said, I'm a God.
Yeah.
Right? And the Senate said, he a God.
Mm-hmm.
And the people worshiped Julius. Then they worshiped Augustus.
Mm-hmm.
Then they started worshiping Tiberius.
Mm-hmm.
Then they started worshiping Nero.
Mm-hmm.
And then Claudius. And then we get to the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. And now we get into the Flavians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we first get into the Flavians so that we can come full circle in 5 or 6 to show you how Jesus Christ was born.
Come on now.
So you got to understand some history. And you don't need to go to seminary school to be able to read.
Absolutely. Ain't cost you no money.
I told you got to get these smartphones to be smart and just take the time to read and stop taking everything on face value because somebody has a plaque or diploma that says they understand how to manipulate you from the school of deception. So read the definition of deification.
Deification. Apotheosis.
Apotheosis.
Also called
apotheosis.
Salakia. Also called divinization.
Divinization. Divining. Divinization.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Or deification.
Okay, go ahead.
Is the glorification of a subject to divine levels.
It's a glorification. These pastors today are fighting to be glorified. They want to be worshiped and reverenced. They'll have an hour worth of praise and worship and sit there and suck up that energy and then get up there and talk for 30 minutes and go home. Go ahead.
Glorification of a subject to divine levels, and commonly the treatment of a human being.
A what?
The treatment of a human being.
Julius Caesar was a human. The pharaohs was humans. The Sumerian leaders was humans.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Jesus was a human.
Human.
And if he was a demigod, it's blasphemous.
Come on now.
Take your pick. Was he a human deified, or was he a half man, half God, which is a demigod, which is blasphemy?
Blasphemy.
Go ahead.
Any other living thing or an abstract idea in the likeness of a deity.
So here we go. We got a human being being treated as a deity, or any living thing. People worship cows, and people out here worshiping elephants, and people deifying snakes, and people deifying sharks, and you're deifying whatever what's the word I wanted? Apex predator that is scaring your people or attacking your people. They're going to worship lions. They're going to worship anacondas, whatever it is. They're going to deify living things like deities depending on where you at, right?
Mhm.
So the Europeans and the Spaniards, Portuguese, and they went all around the world and called these people that were deifying other things, they called them savages, but at the same time they gave you Jesus, a God man. Y'all not listening to what I'm saying.
Don't even make sense.
Because nobody teaches you there's a God man, but when he was in man, he only did small miracles, but he didn't exude the power of a God. But they tried to make literally him talk like a God, but not exude the power of God. Not yet.
Not yet.
Later.
33 years it's gonna take him to get there, huh?
But it's been thousands of years and he ain't did it yet. Right? And now the Muslims looking for one savior, the Jews looking for one savior, and the Christians looking for one savior, and ain't nobody looking for who the Israelites said was actually coming back. Right? So we got a problem with apotheosis and deification or divinization, right? People and things being worshipped or glorified in the likeness of a deity. Go ahead, Art.
Treating a mere mortal as someone godly.
Could you imagine if David Blaine really was not categorized as a magician, but he actually started floating? He actually really did the things instead of putting him into that what's the big magician's name from back in the day?
So you had what
the top musician in history,
Merlin.
No, I'm talking about the one back in the 70s, 80s. The one that first broke himself out of the chains.
Oh, Evel Knievel?
Yeah, instead of putting him in the box of Evel Knievel as just a top magician or Merlin, right? That he actually started being worshipped because people really believed it. I mean, people was really worshiping and believing Benny Hinn. They really was. By the thousands and hundreds of thousands. They was worshiping Benny Hinn. He a multi-billionaire, retired, confessed he was a liar. But he still got all the money.
Yeah.
And all the people that worshiped him, some just shrunk back into hiding and the others just on the roost. Mere mortals as someone godly. The papacy, vicars of Christ. The Christian bishops, they take the role and they dressing like vicars of Christ, right? I forgot the word, but there's someone above imams in Islam, right? They got all these ranks of people that are higher and supposed to be the all-knowing, right? Intercessors between man and their deity. Go to the next page. So the next definition we want to talk about is authorship. Because how are we knowing about these deities of old? Except somebody's writing it on walls, somebody's writing it on scrolls, somebody's putting it in books, and they say this is the #1 book of all time written and sold in history. But what if the authorship wasn't divine by the Most High? What if there was somebody that actually said, I wrote the Bible? Now they're going to be attacked by the people that actually profit from the manipulation. I'm close.
You got it.
The people that monopolize the Bible, monopolize you using the Bible. Think about how many people profit off the stories of the Bible. How much oils and incense and clothing and crosses and fish and memorabilia. They got a whole Barnes and Noble section. They got Martell's, whole Christian stores, the Islamic, you got whole stores and markets off of memorabilia. People are making merchandise, making money off of religion. So in all of these religions, somebody's authoring these books. I mean, let's make it sense. There's a Bible, but T.D. Jakes has sold 10 plus books because he taught his church the Bible. Kenny Copeland wrote 50 plus books. Joyce Meyer's writing books. So that's just Christianity. Muslims, they got the hadiths. You got the Quran, and you got all these hadiths. The Jewish people got the Torah and the Tanakh, but then they got all of these Talmudic books. I mean, you go try to buy a Talmud, it look like the Encyclopedia Britannica. So tell me why all these religions, why is there additional authorship needed if the Torah was enough?
Right.
If the Quran was enough. If the canonized Bible, the infallible canonized Bible, says the Catholic Church, was enough, why when you go to these Christian schools, they got thousands of books in their library,
man,
about Christianity?
Yeah.
Thousands of different authors authoring and reauthoring and rewriting. What is authorship, Bob?
Authorship is academic authorship of journal articles, books, and other original works. Is a means by which academics communicate the results of their scholarly work, establish priority for their discoveries.
So Paul could have been an academic if he actually wrote those epistles.
Absolutely.
Mark would be an author if he actually wrote Mark.
That's right.
Right? The only books you know was really written was the ones that said, L said to me. Everything else, no one knows who's the author. You got all these authors of all these scholarly books at Christian schools, and I don't even know where Islam goes to school, but every religion has schools. Even these Hebrew Israelites now have their own academies. What else are you teaching besides what's written in the book? Everybody got all these extra scholarly articles, original works. And some of these works become more profound than the original text that they got their information from. It's like, how you going to walk around and say you the Christ and you just saying the same things that Isaiah said? Nobody read the articles of Confucius, so you walk around talking like Confucius, but you can fool people because they never read anything. The Dalai Lama, you never, you walk around saying quotables from the Dalai Lama because you know people ain't never heard or read nothing about Dalai Lama or the Buddha or Krishna, and you taking all these principles from everywhere. Now you got followers and they don't know you are just a regurgitator. You ain't saying nothing new. Kind of like Jay-Z. He just redoing Biggie songs and y'all think he's great. He's just redoing Tupac song. And Drake taking they just Beyonce, they just taking people's work and redoing it, and y'all don't know that it's somebody else's song. Like word for word, sung in a different melody, on a different beat,
on a different vibration.
And they just took somebody else's original work. They say, Jay-Z say, man, I'm gonna get on your song, I'm gonna bless your album, and then the next thing you know, it's Jay-Z featuring you, and you wrote it. The next thing you know, you ain't getting nothing but a point. He done took you off your own song that you wrote because it sounds better when I do it. So it's happening in the case of the Bible.
Yes.
Creflo got something to say better to you than what's written in the book. They'll read you a verse. We're going to come from Matthew 25 and 34. Then he's going to put that down, pick up his tablet, and talk to you about what he wrote about Matthew 25 and 34. That's how these teachers is doing. That's how these brothers is doing it instead of reading what's written.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So I'll start again at the top.
All right.
Academic authorship of journal articles, books, and other original works is a means by which academics communicate the results of their scholarly work, establish priority for their discoveries, and build their reputation among their peers. The identity of the person who wrote it, composition, creation, initiation, invention, origination, writing.
Original writings, creations. There's so many books about the Bible, about the Talmud, about the Torah, about you know, the Numa Elish, and everybody got a writing and a writing. There's a book, and people are quoting 5 other different sources, and you got to go to the source to see, hey, did he give me the whole context of that quotable, or did he just give me a piece of the quotable, right? So now we got deification, and we got authorship. Because see, nobody would know that Romulus is Quirinius, and people are worshiping Quirinius, but that's just Romulus. Or people back then was worshiping Serapis Christos, but that was really you worshiping Ptolemy. So I create a deity and I get a name, and then I get my scribes to just start writing all these principles about Serapis Christos, and you really be worshiping Ptolemy. What are you saying, Raah?
Are you listening?
Are you listening to what I'm saying? A man puts a deity and creates a deity, and the scribes write the authorship
to solidify
through typology, which gives solidity to the deity. And there's no better one that has superseded the other deities but Jesus himself.
And he comes after all of them.
He's above all of them, but they have the same birthday, same characteristics, same miracles, same virgin birth. But they got people to worship him to this day more across the world by threat of death.
Yes.
And you're like, what are you saying about my Jesus? I'm saying you wouldn't even know your Jesus if a lot of your relatives didn't die or humble themselves before the gun and the knife.
Right.
Diablos, deceiver, Hasatan. What better way than to get you to stop following the Creator, but by giving you another deity, and you think you worshiping him through his son. But if you're going to follow Torah and Tanakh, or you follow and remember the days of old and our fathers, we got a jealous deity back. There's a deity that said there is none besides me. None sit with me. And what kind of deity is that if he changed his mind?
Man.
Let's go to the next one. Historical
negationism.
Negationism. You've been working on that in your head. Historical negationism. What is that?
Also called historical denialism is falsification or distortion of the historical record.
What better way than to get you to stop worshiping the true Creator and to give you a new deity with new books of authorship after we have killed, stole the culture, took the land and resources, destroyed the holy temple? What better way than to keep our hustle going, but by denying it? It's almost like now, what's that called? They taking Black history out of the schools. It's what's that called? It's the same thing. We're not gonna teach the true history because what we're gonna promote is denialism, and we're gonna make it go away.
Yeah, because they say they don't want their kids to be subject to.
Right. We don't want our young white or Asian or Indian kids to be knowing that at the hands of the European, these things was done by the Spanish, Portuguese, French, English, German. Like this is what they did when they came to the Americas. We don't want the kids that look like the bad people to have that relation of, hey, I see little Shanika over there, like, am I supposed to be her enemy because I'm reading this story? Wait a minute. They didn't even teach me about the bad things that happened in history when I was coming up through government and history class. They didn't even tell the real story. I'm in Oklahoma. I'm in Comanche County. I'm in Indian Territory. I'm in the city where the first Buffalo Soldiers went out and expanded the territory west of Oklahoma. And I'm in the town. And they didn't teach us about the Buffalo Soldiers. In history, elementary school, middle school, high school, they didn't teach us that military base right there was founded and built off people that look like you. The Europeans couldn't even come into Oklahoma and steal it through the boomer sooner if the Buffalo Soldiers, if Bass Reeves didn't clean up Indian territory from Oklahoma to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Use us, the expendables, go in and clean it up, and then they line up at the border and come take it. They come with the ditty. Take that, take that.
Mm-hmm.
Denialism. We'll deny true Oklahoma history.
Mm-hmm.
We'll deny true Texas history.
Mm-hmm.
We'll limit that just to Galveston. Hey, we've been fighting. They've been fighting all these years to recognize Juneteenth. Juneteenth ain't got nothing to do with but Texas.
Period.
Ain't nowhere else in the world got nothing to do with Juneteenth but Texas, i.e. South Texas,
Mm-hmm.
i.e. the Galveston area where it was most profound.
Mm-hmm. But now the whole world benefit from it.
Now they want to give. All right, we won't deny it no more. We'll give you trinkets. We'll admit that it happened. We'll recognize Tulsa that it actually happened. But listen, we still ain't gonna teach about Tulsa in the schools. We're not gonna teach about Rosewood in the school. We know the information is out. So now that we gotta go back to education and we gotta take Black history all the way out. That sepia group, the Black history clubs, we gotta get rid of all of that.
Mm.
We don't want kids walking around in red, black, and green. We don't, you know what I'm saying? But
No,
just put it back.
nothing,
Let's come back into the scriptures, though. They're going to do the same denialism, and they're going to teach you about Jesus, but they're not going to tell you that the Romans and the Edomites was in Judea.
Come on, man.
Go
At the same time.
Go figure that. In history, you not knowing that the Edomites was in rulership,
Mm-hmm.
and they was in the priesthood,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was subservient and working up under the Romans, and then before them the Greeks, and so on and so forth. But Christianity is dumbed down, historical negotiation, and they're gonna deny everything down to the historical record that all you need to do is have faith and grace in Christ alone.
That's it.
Jesus Christ alone. Just have faith in Jesus. I heard a young lady say, we as Christians do believe that even though we continue to sin, we don't have to pay for it because we are under the blood of Jesus. I was like, that is the stupidest thing I ever heard now that I'm in my old age.
Mm-hmm.
As a young person, when I was doing everything reckless, it fit what I wanted to do because I was living reckless and wild. But what if I died in all of that sin?
Man.
You telling me the people that colonized, killed, destroyed, and scattered the children of Israel now have created a doctrine, a religion, and a God that absolves them of everything they did and teaches history in a way where you only worry about salvation through the deity that we created, and our authorship and all the books and all the organ and areas and all the men of the book that they make up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fathers of the church, all their writings through typology and through historical hocus pocus
Mm-hmm.
now absolves the church, their church.
Yeah, their church.
Supersession, the Most High church is gone.
Right.
Predestination through the Most High is gone.
Right.
It's now predetermination,
Mm-hmm.
and through authorship by their writers, they have now created a whole new religion and doctrine and deity and people.
Mm-hmm.
And they make you get down and lay down.
Bow down to his statue.
They make you argue with the next person and the next person, and historically, none of your people ever worshiped and ever knew about nobody named Jesus.
Come on now.
But now the whole world is like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It's the eclipse. It's the coming back of the Christ. Come on now. If Christ coming back, why they shooting rockets at it?
Come on, man.
Why they got the God particle CERN opening up? What is Oh, man's making plagues. Man is now buying red heifers. So, let's keep our eye on Jerusalem. They done bought a red heifer from Texas. From Texas?
From Texas to Jerusalem.
Texas to Jerusalem. They took a red heifer from Texas. You telling me they don't got no red heifers in the East?
They got them in India. What they need to come to Texas for?
Let's keep going, man. We ain't even out of the intro, man. Try not to have part 7 and 8. Let's keep going.
All right.
Y'all quit talking to me. Denialism. Go ahead.
Denialism.
What is denialism?
To achieve a national political aim.
A national political, a whole new Jerusalem, a whole new government, a whole new people. We're not Israel, we're Israeli.
What?
We're not Jew, we Jewish.
What?
We're not really blood related to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but we stay claim through documents, authorship,
Spiritual
power,
power. All right.
Because we have the nations back in our play.
Mm-hmm.
So we can deny that we are not the real people. We totally are the people. Don't you know that? No, we don't know that. So are you the chosen people or the Christian church the chosen people? Who the chosen people? And if the Christian church is back in Jerusalem and the Jews, what's the scam with Christianity? Christianity ain't against Judaism.
Mm-mm.
Then which one of y'all is the liar?
Both of them.
Which one of y'all messiahs is the liar? Oh, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Denialism.
That's right.
As they're killing people over there now, they're denying that people are dying at the hands of the military over there.
Right.
As they conquer and take more land and take more resources and push more Palestinians out. It's the same thing they did over here. Whose side you on? Man, I'm on my side.
That's right.
Y'all did the same genocide and stuff to the Cherokee, the Creek, the Choctaw, Chickasaw. Y'all did it here. Y'all did the same thing here. You did it in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You did it in Australia. There is a people, but you can't talk about it. They deny it. But there's a people out here that is eliminating all Aboriginal people.
Mm-hmm.
All the people that love the sun, that bask in the sun, they getting wiped out. We want dark moons. We want eclipses. We were celebrating everything dark. But the people that can go walk out there and get charged up by the sun, no, we got to eliminate them. Denialism. Achieve a national, political, I would say spiritual, denominational, by doing what? Transferring what?
War, guilt.
No, transferring war guilt. Take the guilt off of the Romans. Take the guilt off of the Greeks. Take the guilt off of the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Roman Catholic Church. Take the guilt off of what we did by signing those papal bulls and wiping out all Saracens or all non-believers in Jesus. No Christian talk to me. I'm going to go right to the papal bulls. You're going to say it was ordained by God. I'm going to say, yes, your God. And now through denialism, even in the Christian church, we don't want to talk about through Jesus Christ, the expansion of Christianity by death around the world. He's the God of love. He sounds worse than the Old Testament. Yahweh, Jehovah, Elyone. And listen, he sounds worse than the Old Testament deity. But through denialism, we won't talk about the transferring of war guilt. Go ahead, Ak.
Demonizing an enemy.
We're demonizing the enemy that we conquered. We had to demonize and say those Jews, those Israelites was bad people. They were stopping the growth politically of the nation of Rome. They're bad for America. They're unpatriotic. They don't want to pay taxes and be subservient, and they don't want to track their kids with birth certificates and driver's license. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to get passports to move and go. They don't want to be up under the governmental reign of the United States government. They don't want to be good servants. So you get demonized, right? The militias carry guns and they actually get employed and they get licensed to go kill in the name of the government. But the Black Panthers rise up or anybody with melanin rise up, they get demonized.
Mm-hmm.
Al-Qaeda, they're dangerous. These bad people all over the world, they just are fighting against the tyranny of the nihilism of the conquerors. We're going to come in and do that. But the authorship and the way we tell it on the news, you're going to think the good guys are bad. And it's the same way still in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Providing an illusion of victory or preserving a friendship.
How is it a victory that Jesus is still coming back and everybody can make it into the kingdom? But while everybody's waiting to get into the kingdom through Christianity and waiting on Jesus, the conquerors are still plundering and living good, living high on the hog. They got all the jets. They got all the yachts. They own islands. They're out there playing with little kids, doing little atrocious things out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we living in squander, paycheck to paycheck, trying to get by, waiting on somebody and something to happen that ain't ever gonna happen.
Ain't never gonna happen.
But as long as they keep the preachers paid, keep the pumping them out through cemetery school,
Yeah.
they can keep the illusion of one day in the sweet by and by we'll have victory.
Mm-hmm.
How many of our people have died waiting on the sweet by and by?
Man.
Or the dream to be revealed, right?
My grandmother held it out to her dying day waiting for this.
Let's look at a story. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26. Let's get into this. Sweet Lord, baby Jesus. Born December 25th, 4 BC. Somewhere abouts.
Somewhere.
He wasn't at 0.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't at 2 BC, 1 BC, 0 BC.
Mm-mm.
It was 4 BC. So I'm trying to figure out when the AD started. Because it didn't start at his birth.
For real.
According to their records.
According to their records. Because, boy.
All right, read this out.
It's Matthew 26.
Start at verse 1.
All right. And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples,
What did he say?
Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
This is a story. Son of Man, him, Jesus, is to be crucified, but he talking to them about the Passover.
Right.
Okay. Jesus. So the Passover is when Jesus was supposed to die.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what history says about his death. We already talked about his birth.
Right.
Now let's see when he died. He was born when? December 25th.
4 BC.
4 BC.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Jesus therefore died on Friday, April the 3rd, AD 33 at about 3 p.m.
At about 3 p.m., he was 33 years old.
Yes.
Go ahead.
A few hours before the beginning of Passover day.
What? Go ahead.
And the Sabbath. What in the who? Wham bam.
What did Matthew just say?
Okay. Matthew said,
go back to Matthew 26 and 1 and 2.
And it came to pass when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
Okay, now let's look at history. Go ahead.
History says, Jesus therefore died on Friday, April the 3rd, AD, Anno Domini.
AD 33, go ahead.
33 at about 3 p.m., a few hours before the beginning of Passover day and the Sabbath. Come again, say what?
So you know the way the story reads in the New Testament, before daylight on the 14th, he ate with his disciples.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went in the garden Him and Peter and them got into it with the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
They took him under guard.
Mm-hmm.
They took him to Caiaphas,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at daylight, Caiaphas took him to Pilate.
Right.
So before the 14th at daylight, right?
Yeah.
Passover day,
Mm-hmm.
Passover day time. Then when it's dark, the next day is the Shabbat. It's the first day of unleavened bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we say his death is Friday, April 3rd, 33 AD. So we got a birth, and we got a death of a man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
This is the date in the Julian calendar.
In the what calendar?
Julian calendar,
Okay.
which had been introduced in 45 BC
It was introduced. Okay.
and follows the convention that historical dates adhere to the calendar in use at the time.
So calendars change the dates and the days and the chronology as you know it,
Right.
depending on who the ruler was,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what calendar was being used,
Mm-hmm.
determines the date and the time
Of the event.
of the actual event of his birth and his death.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just quoting and using Julian calendars, times and dates for his life and his death, right?
Yeah.
So remember that, right? We got more in depth in other lessons on calendars, right?
Absolutely.
So we talking about him being born overall, right? So now let's go back and let's look at some things. The Caesars of the first century. So when you're reading this Bible, who was in power,
Absolutely.
right?
Very important.
So let's look at number one. Go ahead.
The birth of Jesus
Uh-huh.
in Egypt equals 31 BC to 14 AD. Octavian Augustus Caesar was in authority.
So in the time that Jesus was supposed to be born, in the time that Joseph and Mary and them went in hiding to Egypt, and they didn't even bring him back until they had to pay taxes, he was 12 or 13, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they came back into Jerusalem to be censused and pay taxes, right? So the Caesar that was in power then was not Julius Caesar.
No,
It would have been Augustus,
that's right.
whose name was also Octavian, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go to number two. Go ahead.
Absence, ministry, and death of Jesus equals 14 AD to 37 AD, and you had Tiberius Caesar.
During the time of him coming into ministry, doing the miracles, feeding people with bread and doing all these things, dying, raising again, Augustus wasn't the Caesar. It was Tiberius.
Yes, sir.
Right? Why are you telling me this? I'm just trying to lay out the context so when we get back into deeper things, you could go back in the video or go back in your notes and figure out who was who when you're reading this novel or this authorship of the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Number three.
Elders, apostles, Paul's ministry equals 37 AD to 41 AD. And then you have Gaius, Caligula.
So Caligula. So when you start talking about Pentecost,
Mhm.
the elders, Paul coming back to talk to the elders, Paul commissioning and getting Barnabas and having all his ministry going about into Asia Minor, that was under Caligula. But Caligula was only
Very
an
short.
emperor for what? 3 to 4 years.
Very short time.
Very short time, right? So Paul was still in ministry. We moved to number 4. Go ahead.
Elders, apostles, Paul's ministry continued 41 AD to 54 AD. You
So
have
Claudius comes after Caligula, right?
Yes, sir.
Now listen, go to number 5.
All right. So we further continuing in Paul's ministry. Elders, apostles, Paul's ministry. Now we have 54 AD to 68 AD, and you under Nero.
So Nero, it was 3 Caesars in power
Mhm.
during Paul's ministry. I'm
Mhm.
trying to give you a timeline, right?
Mhm.
Under this Julio-Claudian, we already went through Julian
Mhm.
Claudian emperors. Now we're saying under Paul's Damascus, into his talking to the elders, going into ministry, even up into his death, we got 3 emperors. But this main one is the end of the Julian Claudian reign.
That's right.
Nero,
Nero.
one of the worst of them all, right?
Boy.
So when Paul died, or when Paul said, I want to go appeal to Caesar, what Caesar? Nero, right? when they locked him up. So here's your Julio Claudian emperors, right? Caesar, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero. It's funny that they all look like your picture of Jesus you grew up with before you started saying Jesus was a colored man.
Mm-hmm.
They all had images of Caesar Borgia that looked just like these guys.
Yeah.
And what did we learn in part 3 about all these guys? They all were deified.
That's right.
All of them were man gods on earth.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about Nero here in a little bit. But let's see what Caesar. Let's go through some scriptures so we can see what Caesar was in power. Read Luke chapter 2, verse 1. Let's go kind of fast through this one.
All right.
It says it actually in the New Testament. So whoever the author was, he knew a lot about Greco-Roman things, not more so Hebrew things.
Right.
He was more telling the story that gave actually more light to the Romans. Read that, 2 and 1.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus.
So who?
Caesar
Octavian was in power, right?
Right.
So during Luke chapter 1 and 2, when Mary went off to see her cousin, right? Zacharias, right? John the Baptist people. Who was the Caesar? Augustus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to John chapter 19, verse 15. St. John. That's what I'm talking about. We teaching in the Bible, history, lost books. Let's get some context of what's going on in the Bible. John chapter 19, verse 15. Go ahead.
But they cried out, away with him, away with him.
So this is when Christ is being crucified, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And crucify him. Pilate said unto them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar.
How does the high priest say, we have no king, no ruler but Caesar? He didn't even say Herod.
Right.
He said, forget the Edomites. He was like, we don't appeal to no one but Caesar.
Yeah.
So what Caesar do you think this is? Let's go to another place and see if we can find out. Let's go to Matthew 22 and look at the same time period when Christ was given to Pontius Pilate by the priests and Christ was on trial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Matthew chapter 22. Let's look at another passage and see. No, I don't think he's on trial yet, but let's just look and see what another saying. Who is he talking about here? Matthew 22, 17 and verse 21. Go ahead.
Tell us therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not?
So they questioning Jesus point blank. You the son of God. You doing miracles.
Give us the answer.
You God in flesh. Are we supposed to be giving tribute to Caesar? Because you got to understand, the Jews was fighting the Romans.
Absolutely.
Y'all can't read this Bible without knowing that there was already zealot factions already fighting back against the Romans. And then you have this Jesus come who they're proclaiming to be Son of Man, the Savior, the King. And he got followers now. He building up a presence. His disciples say, oh, so are we supposed to go pay taxes to Caesar? What'd he say?
They say unto him, Caesar's. Then said unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto El the things that are El.
That don't make sense. Is he just telling them you pay your taxes, but also go give your tithes and offering to the fake priests in the temple?
How?
What kind of Messiah? What kind of God is this?
So pay Caesar.
He already know
El.
this. He already know the priests in there crooked.
Yeah.
He called them dogs and wolves and everything. And now he know that they under the colonization of the Romans. They under not only the Edomites but under the Romans. And he say pay them tribute. Right. I already did the research for y'all. So in that verse, Tiberius is the Caesar. Right.
Yes.
At this point in Matthew 22. But let's go to the next verse. Let's go to hold on 1 second. Luke 3 and 1. Luke chapter 3, verse 1. And it's going to tell you who the Caesar is when Christ was given over to Pilate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead,
Now in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar.
So Tiberius comes after Octavius.
That's right.
So now Tiberius is the Caesar by the time Christ is being crucified and on trial with Pilate. Because it says who? Pilate is the governor. Go ahead.
Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, and of the region of Tetrachtes, and Lysanias, and the tetrarch of Abilene.
All right. So at this time, so when Pilate was in power, Tiberius was the Caesar. Now let's move forward in the future and let's go to Acts chapter 11. So, you know, we got Julius, Octavius, we got Tiberius, we got Caligula, we got Claudius, then we got Nero. See how quick you learn that history?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like these authors are just laying out through. It's important to know it, but you ain't gonna learn it in Vacation Bible School.
Mm-mm.
You're not gonna learn it in the Baptist church on Wednesdays.
Nope.
Right? Acts chapter 11, verse 25. Go ahead.
Then departed Barnabas to Tarsus for to seek Saul. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch.
Ain't that funny? We read right here and then we stop, right? Hey, Paul and Barnabas, they was called Christians in Antioch. But the funny thing about Antioch is that you don't know that it's in Syria, and who ruled Syria over the 300 to 400 years before the Romans came? Antioch is Epiphanes, the Greeks.
Come on, up.
Right? So they grow up into the
though.
Hellenized world and they started calling these followers of Jesus Christians. But that's not all it. Who was Caesar at this time? Keep going.
And in these days came prophets from Jerusalem unto Antioch. And there stood up one of them named Agabus, signified by the Spirit that there should be great dearth throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar.
It was great famine during the time of who?
Claudius.
Who came after who? Tiberius. And that's before who? Nero. Right? You got to put that timeline together because you ain't going to hear this teaching nowhere else because nobody has the spirit to teach. True. Now let's go into Acts 25. So we in Acts chapter 11, Claudius is Caesar.
Yes, sir.
Now we moving forward in Paul's ministry, as the authors say. We in Acts chapter 25. Now let's read 10 through 11. So now we can put something else in context here. We're going to start at verse 10. Acts 25, verse 10 through 12. Go ahead.
All right. Then said Paul, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. To the Jews have I done no wrong, as thou very well knowest. For if I be an offender or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. I appeal unto Caesar.
So he appealed to Caesar. Let's see who he appealed to. I already did the homework for you, but go ahead.
Then Festus, when he had conferred with the council and swore, hast thou appealed unto Caesar? Unto Caesar shalt thou go.
So we know that the Caesar he went to was none other than Nero at this time.
That's right.
So the historians say Peter died.
Yes.
In 64 AD. The historians also say Paul died in 64 or 65 AD. So when they died, who was the Caesar? Nero. Now, what have you learned by watching the multitude of Christ about Caesar? About Nero, because Nero goes into the book of Revelation.
That's right.
See, he was the last of the Julio-Claudian. So your New Testament ends with the Julio-Claudian reign. So the authors of this book chronologically set the New Testament and everything in it to stop before they got into power.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't go into the next rule, which I'm giving you a pretext. I'm giving you a hint, which is the Flavian reign.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you read from Matthew to Revelation starts with Augustus, Octavius, and ends with Nero.
Yep.
Right? So let's move on. So let's go and revisit Nero, because this is all important to the birth and death of Jesus. I'm gonna prove it to you now. Just stay with me all the way to part 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whenever we're done. Let's go back to Nero, because y'all don't think y'all remember Nero. Go ahead, right here with this slide. Nero Claudius.
Let me get one more page. There we go. All right. Nero Claudius, Caesar Augustus, Germanicus was Roman emperor and the final emperor of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, reigning from AD 54 until his death in AD 68.
So he died a few years after he killed Peter and Paul.
Right.
Right? Go to the next slide.
All righty. After his death, Nero was succeeded by Vespasian.
He was succeeded by who?
Vespasian.
Okay. 68 AD, we coming right up into the fall of the city of Jerusalem.
That's
and
right.
the temple.
That's right.
We ain't right at that point. See how we walk history down?
Mm-hmm.
So now Vespasian and the Flavians, who are no relation to the Julius or the Romulus or the Claudians.
Come on,
all of them is already deified. They already God man. So now you think the Flavians is going to take over and not say that they gods on earth? Au contraire, move for it. All right. So Vespasian succeeds Nero.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Titus and Vespasian, military, might use to stop rebellion in Judea.
So how in the world is Christians telling you faith alone and worry about Jesus, but by the time Peter and Paul died, it was an all-out war? It say rebellions was going on in Judea.
Man.
War was going on in Judea while the elders was back in Jerusalem, and Paul was going about through Ephesus and Corinth and all these stories the author has us reading about Paul. They're not telling us that there were skirmishes and small battles, just like the Maccabees in Judea, to get the colonizer out, to get the Edomites out of Jerusalem.
Come on, man.
So now Nero passes. Vespasian now, before he takes over, there's already been wars and skirmishes before Peter and Paul passed.
That's right.
Or at the same time, they was at the end of their days, there was already skirmishes, and for some reason I'm like, why wasn't they going back telling their sisters and brothers who was fighting the Romans to stop in Jesus' name, to just love your enemy, turn your other cheek in Jesus' name, just put it under the blood in Jesus' name? Why wasn't they saying that to the people who was fighting these Romans? Because obviously Titus and Vespasian had to have the same enemy as Nero, who had the same enemy as Claudius, who had the same enemy as Tiberius, who had the same enemy as Augustus, and all the way back to Julius, since they came and took over from the Greeks. The Israelites been trying to get the enemy out of the land.
Forever.
So now Vespasian and Titus, they come with 70,000 troops. Go ahead. Also
known for defeating Druids in the Gaul France and removing all knowledge of them from history. That's a fact. Wait a minute. But what we just read about historical negotiation, denialism, like you killing these Gauls and Visigoths and Druids, and you keeping some ruins of their holy place, but you wipe out the original inhabitants and
of Europe, of Britain, of France, of Germany, of Netherlands. You wiped all the original Irish. You wiped out all of their history from the books. This has been going on.
Come on, man.
An Australian don't look like an Aboriginal Australian no more.
No.
A South African ain't a South African anymore. American, a true indigenous, a Tontonist, ain't that no more.
That's why
This been going on. Titus and Vespasian did that in France with the Gauls and the Jews. So guess what happened in Jerusalem?
Same thing.
The same thing, right? We're going to go in depth about this family who came into Jerusalem and did the same thing they did in France. Follow me now. Let's keep going. What scene is next?
Nero.
All right. So we still on Nero. Go ahead.
Okay, continue with Nero. Another possible source of inspiration for those who impersonated Nero was the circulation of prophecies that predicted he would regain his kingdom in the East.
Wait a minute. Are these predestinations about Nero? Or are these predeterminations that Nero will regain his kingdom in the East?
Why the East?
Who is east of Rome?
Let's think about it.
That's like Greece, Turkey, Syria, Judea, Palestine, Egypt.
What's next?
Arabia. They wasn't over there on the other side of the Euphrates. They lost them battles. Alexander the Great didn't even get that far. He got over into India and he lost all of that, right?
Got busted.
So you get into what we know as Iraq and Iran today. I mean, Nero, when you look up a map of the Roman Empire's footprint, it don't go that far out.
No,
it stops at Syria, Judea, it come down into Egypt. It don't even cover the Arabian Peninsula
at all.
Right? So we got some predestination, some predeterminations, or some man-made prophecies about Nero. Go ahead.
One version placed his resurgence at Jerusalem.
So one prophecy says that there's going to become a ruler out of Jerusalem is going to be the catalyst for the new reign, right? There's a prophecy about a ruler taking over Jerusalem again, and he's going to be, I guess, all powerful, right?
Yeah.
Or Nero is going to solidify his power by taking over Jerusalem. But we know that the Romans was already in Jerusalem, but there was wars going on. People, somebody is giving you a New Testament and took the wars and battles out the story. So you trying to talk, so it's like somebody trying to tell you something good about Ukraine without telling you that during 2023, when it ain't even over yet, that there wasn't wars and skirmishes going on between Russia and Ukraine. But they trying to tell you it's a great place to visit. All is going well. You know what I mean? Come visit. But it's bombs going on there, right? There's a skirmish going on between Israel and Palestine. But hey, come visit. Why would I come visit?
For what? I want to die.
But they tell you about this great story about Jesus, but they're not telling you that his people is fighting to get the Romans and the Edomites out of there.
Come on, man.
So that they can worship their Elohim in peace.
That's right.
This is the story that we, the conquered in America, bought this by death or conversion.
Yeah.
And now we the most religious about a story and a people told to us in half truth by authors who wanted us to be just as docile as they tried to make this story of the children of Israel. But they was never. That's why they don't want you to read the Old Testament, because it wasn't nothing but full of war and fighting back. Now they give you this New Testament.
Ain't nobody there to fight back.
Ain't nobody fighting back. It's about love, docile, peace among all people. Love your enemy. Turn your cheek. While you turn your cheek, they cut your head off. Stab you in the back, take all your resources, rape your women. Take your daughters, emasculate your sons. Go ahead.
These prophecies have been tied to Nero's natal chart, which has been interpreted.
Hey, look that up. I ain't even spend my time, but we got to look up Nero's natal chart. Somebody look that up. Email me. Go ahead.
Has been interpreted as pointing to a loss of patrimony, and is recovery in the east.
So you know what that's saying? You know that the Julian Claudians never believed that you could pass your kingdom by succession to your son.
Right.
Patrimony, patrilineal.
Yes.
Right. None of their sons succeeded. Right. Augustus, Octavius was not Julius's son.
That's right.
Tiberius wasn't Claudius's son. Claudius wasn't Tiberius, and so on and so on, right? But somehow there was a prophecy that Nero would be able to pass his lineage through his patrimony, but that wasn't the way of the Romans, right?
That's right.
Go ahead.
Tacitus may have been referring to such prophecies in veiled language when he wrote of the rumors that circulated about Nero after his death.
Wait a minute. So remember, we read that Vespasian said what? I will be a god. He said they make you a god after you. They make the Roman emperors gods after they die, right?
Yeah.
So Tacitus is a known historian, Greco-Roman historian, and he wrote about Nero after his death. Go ahead.
Which had contributed to the belief that he had survived.
That he didn't die.
What?
They saying Nero didn't die. Go ahead.
On now. The return of Nero may have inspired the author of the book of Revelation.
Come again, say
Whoa.
what?
Hold on. Pause. So this is why they said Revelation supposed to be in the first book. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to jump ahead. It just boom. There it was. All right. So
read that sentence. Read it again.
The return of Nero.
Nero was supposed to return. Nero is supposed to have been prophesied as the Messiah.
Yes.
To return. And Nero inspired the authorship. Oh, not John on the Isle of Patmos, but you telling me John on the Isle of Patmos was inspired not by God, but by Nero? And prophecies about Nero? They write this stuff because we was never supposed to read the other books about the book that was canonized and put with the Torah and Tanakh.
Come on, Ak.
This New Testament was never supposed to be canonized, infallible with the scrolls and the commandments of the Most High. But they did it.
Yeah.
Now look at this. The return of Nero.
The return of Nero may have been inspired by the author of the book of Revelation.
Now, right now, somebody going to see Raah. It says may. All right, I'm going to give you that. Keep reading.
When he wrote about the eschatological opponent called the beast.
So whoever the author of Revelations, eschatological, somebody look up that word, put it in the comments. The author of Revelations may have been inspired by the prophecy of Nero, because Nero would have been the eschatological opponent called the beast.
Mm-hmm.
So Nero is supposed to be the beast.
Yes.
So Jesus Christ revealed it, right? Revelation 1 is saying this is the revelation given to John on the Isle of Patmos from Jesus.
That's right.
So Jesus told John on the Isle of Patmos to write about, I guess, his opponent called the beast. So everybody waiting on the Antichrist still to come. We in 2024, but they're saying the Tacticus, right? The biblical historical scholars back then, right, is saying that the beast is supposed to be Nero. Go ahead.
Which is mortally wounded and then miraculously healed.
Nero is wounded. The beast is wounded. Then he's healed. Go ahead.
The number of the beast, 666 or 616.
Okay.
Depending on the manuscript, has been identified by some as the numerical value of the letters in Nero's name.
So 666, the beast represents Nero Caesar's name. Go ahead.
Nero also appears more explicitly in this role in the ascension of Isaiah and some of the books of Sibylline oracles.
The Sibylline oracles. Look that up. Sibylline for you students and scholars that's out there studying. Look that up if you'd like. Go ahead.
Owning to these prophecies and others, Nero was long thought to be the Antichrist.
Wait, Nero was the Antichrist.
Yes, sir.
If Nero was the Antichrist, why are we still talking about Antichrist and still looking for the
There he is.
Antichrist? We
There
still
he
looking
is.
for Jesus to return and an Antichrist?
Come on, man. Something ain't right.
Something ain't adding up, y'all. Now let's go and read this account. Let's go to Revelations chapter 13. This is a review because we already taught this in previous lessons, but I think it fits right now because we're going through the authorship and the history of this New Testament because we're trying to show when Jesus Christ was born or invented or created or written about. So we got to go back and look at all these things. Revelations 13, let's read verse 16 to 18. Go ahead.
And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
So everybody looking for this beast, this Antichrist, to come in the future, right? We're looking at all this technology, and I'm telling y'all, it's predetermined. They looking back at the control the Romans had, the authors of the day, and they're saying, we want to make these things happen because it looks more like they're making it happen than it actually is predestined and prophesied to happen.
Come on,
right? It can't just keep happening over and over. We just going to keep having an Antichrist. No, they keep making other Antichrists, other beasts, other stories. They're keeping the same story repeating itself.
It's another man saying, it's my turn now.
It's just another man, it's just another government, it's just another political move to keep the servants and to control more land, power, and resources, right? Through religion.
Through religion.
Now look at this. Everybody's scared. They got everybody going to the grocery store, worried about getting the mark, chips in your eye, hand scanners. They worried about all this stuff they saying is now instead of it already was. Because they're taking this authorship and they're applying it to the future.
Yes.
Not telling you that Nero already lived. Revelations was a story about Nero by an author who was living at the time right after it. They revered Nero. All these Caesars were deified. The authors was writing about their leaders that had conquered and gave them power to control nations of the world. They took Greece, they took Spain, they took all of North Africa, they're taking over parts of Egypt, Judea, Syria. They are in power. Let's write about the generals and the people that got this power for us, just like they do today. Verse 17.
And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast.
Wait a minute, I like that. I like that a lot. I'm Wingates. I own a lot of technology. I got billions. I got power. I like that. We should do the Hunger Games. Who made that movie? I like that. We should get tollways and we should be able to cut people off from resources and water and be able to blow up bridges to stop resources from coming, sink barges. We should be able to control supply and demand so that we can control the price and make ourselves filthy rich. So I like that happened back then, that everybody had to come to Rome, had to come to the Caesars. Unless they had Caesar's coin or his paper, they couldn't buy or sell in the marketplace. I like that, man. We should keep doing that, right? Everywhere we go, you got to come to us for resources. I like that. Now that technology is abound, we don't even got to be there to police it, right? We just put cameras on there and watch how people act, right? Go ahead.
Unless the name of the beast.
They got to have the name of the beast.
Or the number of his name.
Now, how can they get us? Oh, they could put the number of his name on Google Chrome.
Right.
They could put the number of his name on a Monster can.
Right.
They could put 666 in the Disney World cursive name.
Right. Or in the body of the characters.
In the body of the characters. They put 666 on all of these things that people are revealing through TikTok and other places, but it ain't making sense to nobody that they still are putting the beast's name out there. And we're consuming these products that are killing us.
Yeah.
Verse 18.
Here is wisdom.
Here's wisdom. Here's the author. Here's wisdom.
Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast.
We're not waiting for no God or no evil monster with horns and, aliens to come back. We're looking for a man. We're looking for a man that is going to have an organization that has lifted up him as God, and he is wanting to control food, resources, and maritime and the movement of people.
Sound like Bill Gates.
And he wants them to glorify him and deify him, eat his food, drink his water, buy his product, wear his clothes, and he will eventually be raised up as the beast.
The beast.
Because it was done before, I want to do it again, right? Keep on reading.
For it is the number of a man.
It's a number of a man.
And
it's not a number of a God. It's not a number of a devil, a monster that's put in horror movies. We're not looking for no ancient monsters in mountains. We're looking for men who are looking for the technology and the control and power to manipulate everybody else in the world. The author of Revelation said it. Go ahead.
And his number is 636.
So you cannot buy or sell. You're going to have a mark. You're going to have the name of the beast, a number of the beast, the number of a man. The beast number is 666. Now, what I should have did was found how many products have the 666 in it, right? But you could do that on your own, can't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got TikTok right now before they ban it, right? Because it's too much knowledge coming out.
Too much information.
Too much information
TikTok,
coming out,
man.
But let's just go to the Greek word beast in 60 G and Strong's Concordance, Salakia, G2342. The word beast, what is it?
Therion. It's a. You want me to read the?
Yeah, you can read a dangerous animal.
Okay.
Venomous wild beast. Read 1, 2, and 3.
And an animal, a wild animal, a wild beast, a metaphor.
But it's a metaphor.
Metaphor
for what?
A brutal, bestial man, savage, ferocious.
See, if a Diablos come to you,
savage.
If a Diablos come to you with glasses on, with 5 PhDs, a billionaire, talking like Joel Osteen, yeah, I think the world is overpopulated. We need to decrease that by, and he talking real soft, and it's a record on with him out of his own mouth saying, yeah, we need to take the vaccinations. We're going to start first with Africa. And, we need to depopulate. We really got too many people for the resources. We're running out of water. We're running out of air, And you're giving symposiums and lectures, talking real soft, looking real nerdy, while at the back of it, all these men is in the audience because he is a brutal, beastly, savage, ferocious in his ideology about what he wants to do to depopulate the earth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have y'all looking up, worried about eclipses and things of that nature, while I'm buying up all the land. I'm using all these pesticides and nanotechnology and rDNA and all this stuff, and I'm gonna have you drinking it, and I'm gonna use shell companies, and by the time you figure out that I own it and it was coming off of my crops, you're gonna already be infected with whatever I need to hurt you.
This is why they use the cartoon. I ain't gonna say the name, but the cartoon to boost everything, because who was the most powerful person in the whole city?
Oh yeah. Mr. Byrne, right.
Mr. Byrne.
So they used the prophetic show.
And he created everything.
Ain't that crazy? The Simps.
They
used the Simps to be predetermined to now when you see it in the future, you're like, oh man, they knew that this was gonna happen 25 years ago.
The man with all the money and the power.
They predetermined, as I seen you coming up, or as I seen your light shining, I knew this is how we're going to take him out. This is how we're going to take her out. This is what we're going to do. This is the kind of catastrophes. I mean, I was reading in college in the 90s about the fall and the collapse of the economy and the dollar back in 95, 96. And there was books before, The Pale Horse. There was stuff that college scholars was talking about back then. That was supposed to happen by 2020.
Currency.
The book was called Workforce 2020.
That's right. Workforce 2020.
Right? So This beast is just a man that has savage, ferocious, and brutal ideology, and they're gonna let you know. Here's the clue: if you know the sign of the beast, don't eat that food, don't drink that drink. What the first part that said? This is the wisdom.
Yes, this is the
verse
wisdom.
18. Here's the wisdom for people that read the secret code and that can read this New Testament. They like, here's the wisdom. To all you readers that read my story of Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
You see that beast number? Don't go there. Don't eat that. Don't drink that. Huh? All right, let's keep going. So now we know that Revelations is supposed to have inspired Nero. Let's just see, why was Nero so bad? I mean, why was Nero metaphorically a beast? Go ahead.
Nero had a dark side. His impulses began as simple extravagance. Before long, however, stories were circulating that he seduced married women and young boys, and that he had castrated and married a male slave. He also liked to wander the streets, murdering innocent people at random.
He's an emperor. He's the emperor. And he's walking down the street with his soldiers, murdering innocent people, castrating males, making them forever power bottoms, taking men's wives. This is a Caesar, right? Now let's look at his name. Let's just look at 666 in the Greek. 600 is chi. I don't know. 60 is xi.
Chi, yeah.
Sigma is 6, right? So when you look at the words
Chi Xi Sigma,
Chi Psi Sigma, right? Yeah. So in Strong's Concordance, Chi Psi Sigma, Chi Z Sigma, right? It says this in the Greek alphabet. It is used as what?
Wait a minute. And
right here.
Let's say used as numbers denoting respectively 600, 60, and 6, or 666 as a numerical 600, 6.
All right. Now let's keep going. Same Strong's definition. I know my sister taking a picture. Hold on. All right, keep reading. Strong's Concordance continues.
The meaning of which is clear when it is written in Hebrew letters.
So
Nero, Caesar.
So what? She shy stigma 666. If you take the Hebrew letters, align with those numbers, the meaning of which is clear that in Hebrew it is i.e. Nero Caesar. 666, the letters in Hebrew line up to the name Nero Caesar. Let's go to the next slide. It shows it. The mark of the beast, Nero Caesar in Hebrew, right? So the first letters coming across the top, right? You add them together are 666. So let's go back and forth. So 50.
Right.
So 50 lines up with the noon, right? So we got noon, 50. We got look like a resh or Raah, right?
So
200, resh,
R,
right? 6, the letter 6 in the Hebrew. We're just using this alphabet, right?
Yeah.
6 is Va, right? So we got noon, Raah, Va, right? We got 50 is noon. So we got noon, Raah, Va, noon, right? And then we got 100, which is
go back one time. There you go.
We got 100, which is Hwy, right? Go back. Too full. So we got noon, Raah, Va, noon, right? Hwy. I'm going too far. I'm going the wrong way. One more, Joe. Right. Now we're back at 60. What's the letter 60 in the Hebrew alphabet we using? We don't even speak with this one. This is like the ancient, but 60 is Sa, right? Semek.
Semek.
Semek. And then the last letter should probably be Raah.
Mhm. Yes.
200, right?
Yeah,
We back at Raah,
back at
right?
Raah.
You put those letters together, 666. So Caesar is in your Bible. Nero Caesar is in your Bible. He is the beast that has already come and was prophesied to return in our book. So let's go back to the historian Tacitus. Let's go to the next slide. Go ahead and read.
Historians, Tacitus, 56 through 117 AD.
So he lived from 56 AD to 117 AD. Go ahead.
The great Roman historian of the shameful sexual exploits of a string of Roman emperors from Tiberius to Nero.
Wait a minute. From Tiberius to Nero, he says they were full of sexual exploits. Go ahead.
Nero was the first imperial persecutor of the Christians.
Oh, Nero, who killed Peter and Paul,
Mhm.
he was the first Roman emperor and persecutor of the Christians. I thought the Romans were Christians. But you know, Peter and Paul then was only called Christians in Antioch.
In that one place.
In that one place, it was
No
only
other place.
They didn't call them Christians nowhere else but in
Antioch.
Syria.
And Syria. And who's over there? Ptolemy.
Ptolemy and the Greeks ruled
and the
there.
Greeks ruled there.
Right.
Which would make Ptolemy the reason why you had who?
Don't move that far.
Okay.
Okay. Second paragraph. Go ahead.
In Nero, Tacitus tells the reader, tyrannical passion, the hubris, and the proclaimed divinity.
What?
Proclaimed divinity.
Proclaimed divinity of who? Nero.
Nero.
Go ahead.
The corruption of power and every filthy, depraved act, illicit or illicit, seemed to reach an imperial peak. He not only had a passion for free-born boys, but also for quite literally marrying other men, and even a boy sometimes playing the part of the woman in the union and sometimes the man.
So he sometimes dressed like a woman, or he had young boys dressed like women in trans, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Nero was a proclaimed divinity, divine. He was a deity, and you only have to watch. Read Tacitus.
Yes.
Look up Tacitus. This is the historian Tacitus, and he writes about Nero and his tyrannical acts. Keep going.
For he went through a formal wedding ceremony with one of the perverted.
Make sure he come back in, Mo. Go ahead.
For he went through a formal wedding ceremony with one of the perverted gang called Pythagoras.
Pythagorean theorem.
Mm-hmm.
Pythagorean theorem. Pythagoras. Go ahead.
The emperor, in the presence of witness, put on the bridal veil, marriage, bedwetting, torches. All were there. Indeed, everything was public, which even in a neutral union is veiled by night.
So Nero was doing stuff that would normally be done at night. He was doing it in the open, in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Very bestial, very brutal, savage emperor. Go ahead.
Such was only one instance. We also have from historian Suetonius, a contemporary of Tacitus, a report of Nero's marriage to Dorforius, who was himself married to another man, Sporus.
Wow. So the things that are happening now openly, Tacitus and Suetonius wrote about, from Tiberius to Nero, the trans, cross-dressing, power bottom, diddy exploits of Nero. It's nothing new.
Nothing new under the sun.
The power that Diddy felt doing that and making men and young people do those things is the same thing Nero was doing.
The spirit of Nero
which
was
made
upon him
beastly.
Yeah.
Which made him Antichrist.
Right.
Or have the mark of the beast.
Yes.
We see the same things happening today. So that's just who Nero is, right? And his role in biblical history and the prophecies that go along with him, right?
Right.
So we started talking about a story of Jesus Christ. Now we got to see these Flavians, because these Flavians took over after the tyrannical exploits of Nero, right? So now we have Titus and Vespasian, right? Because they came in with 70,000 troops into Judea to squash the battles that was going on between the Jews and the Romans. We're not gonna read anything here.
I was gonna say I gotta read it.
We're gonna go to the next one.
Little.
Next slide. It was just a picture. Go ahead.
All right.
This is from the JewishVirtualLibrary.org. Go ahead.
Vespasian and Titus. The Roman general Vespasian was appointed by Emperor Nero in February 67 CE to command the Roman army to suppress the Jewish revolt in Judea.
So Vespasian was a general up under Nero.
Yes.
So he was a general and he had a crazy emperor sending him all over the place, the Gauls and France and into Judea to fight, right? Go ahead.
Vespasian conducted 2 successful battles in 67 and 68 CE and conquered almost all of Judah except Jerusalem.
So he conquered all of Judea except Jerusalem. That's why it was the final place for them to take over, right? Which Titus ended up doing, right? Go ahead.
When Nero died in 68 CE.
Wait a minute. Peter and Paul died in 64, 65 AD.
Lay the math down.
Nero died about 3 years after them.
Yes.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Vespasian stopped fighting.
He stopped his fighting, said, son, you keep going. I'm going to go back up to Rome, and I'm going to go handle this political business. Go ahead.
Left Judah, leaving his son Titus to command the Roman forces besieging Jerusalem.
Go ahead.
On 20 December 69 CE, December 20th, 69 CE, Vespasian was declared emperor of Rome.
So Vespasian left.
Man.
It's 68. He left his son to continue fighting in Jerusalem. Titus, he left and went to Rome. And a year later, probably after killing a lot of people, he was declared emperor of Rome.
Yes.
Vespasian, right?
Yes.
So while he was being declared emperor, his son Titus was down sacking Jerusalem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the next slide.
All right. Continuing with Vespasian and Titus now. His son Titus was responsible for ending the Jewish rebellion.
Wait a minute. Y'all don't know that there was a Jewish rebellion during the time of Vespasian, Nero, Claudius, Tiberius, Augustus, don't forget Caligula, all the way back to Octavian.
Mm-hmm.
There's been Jewish rebellions and revolts all the way, you read in the Maccabees, all the way back in the time of the Greeks. Go ahead.
In 70 CE, Titus besieged and captured Jerusalem and destroyed the city and the second temple. Destroyed the city and the second temple. Y'all got to listen.
Before Vespasian was the Roman emperor appointed, you remember him and his son conquered all of Israel or all of Judea except the city of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now he left his son Titus to finish the job, which he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Titus was awarded a triumph or a victory parade in the street of Rome.
Ain't that what they do when you win championships here?
Yes, sir.
Then they had a championship for South Carolina, the women, right?
Yeah.
Who just won the Super Bowl? Kansas City. They had a parade for them that got shot up, right? Yeah. So you win championships, you get praise and you get triumphants, you get parades, right? They've been doing that, right? Awarding the victor a parade and an honor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
The Ark of Titus in Rome commemorates his victory to this day.
You remember we looked at that last Shabbat.
Yes.
You can still go to Rome, and people go to Rome and they take pictures of this ark, which was commemorated to Titus for destroying Jerusalem. I don't know how you, a Christian, say you believe in Jesus, or you a Jew, say you Father, you waiting on Hashem or whoever, and you still taking tours to Rome to look at something that was commemorated by the death, for the death and conquering of Israelites in their most holy place.
Come
Keep
on,
going.
man.
Keep reading.
The Romans changed the name of Judea to Philistia or Palestine.
So it was from Judea to Philistia to Palestine. So how could you say I'm for Israel and not Palestine?
Come on.
But Palestine was Philistia,
Uh-huh.
and before that it was Judea. Judea was named after Judah, the tribes of Israel that settled in that land.
Mm-hmm.
So you not for the Israelis
Right.
or the Palestinians, neither one of them supposed to be there.
And they both doing what right now?
Fighting for something
That don't belong to neither one.
that don't
of them.
belong to neither one of them. But the Romans are the ones changing and giving the names. Go ahead.
Vespasian used the gold of the Second Temple and the Jewish prisoners of war as slave laborers to build and finance the Colosseum in Rome. And guess what happened there?
Wait a minute. The Jews had to build the Colosseum
Yes.
that they had to go in
And
fight
die in.
each other, fight bears, lions to the death.
Yeah.
Spartacus.
Yes.
The Israelites, conquered by Rome, had to build the Colosseum that they had to fight in to the death.
Now you got to rethink the 300.
And now everybody goes to see the ruins of the Colosseum. They go see the Ark of Titus to remember what? What does
That they
Christians go
destroyed
there to
our
look
city.
for? Go ahead.
A triumphal ark built in Rome to commemorate the victory of the Roman general, later Emperor Titus, in the Jewish War of 66 through 74 CE. One of the most significant Roman artifacts to have survived, the Ark of Titus, has been of continuing significance for both Jews and Christians for nearly 2 millennia. Wait.
Why is that significant?
What?
If I'm a Jew, why I want to remember? I want that torn down.
And as a Christian,
Romans created Christianity. Christianity is established because of the exploits of Titus and Vespasian. They finished the job.
they finished the job.
They tore down, and now because of that, you could teach replacement theology in seminary school, Christology in seminary school, Christ alone, once saved, always saved, Calvinism, Protestantism, whatever you want to teach. You can now
Darwinism.
do it because Titus and Vespasian tore down the temple, and they were able to create years after that a new doctrine, a new religion, and a new God.
No temple, no laws,
All right,
no people.
Same people. So this bus was created showing Titus and his soldiers taking the loot, the gold, and the precious ornaments out of Jerusalem, taking them right to the Vatican. Let's keep reading.
Vespasian and Titus continue. Titus succeeded his father as emperor in 79 CE.
So in 79 CE or 79 AD, Titus replaced his father, Vespasian. So Titus is the second Flavian ruler,
Yes.
right? Go ahead.
He completed the Colosseum,
With slave labor from the Jews. Go ahead.
and during his reign, 2 major disasters occurred in the Romans people.
What happened to them?
The
What disaster?
eruption of Mount Vesuvius,
Mount Vesuvius.
Slovakia,
Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79
CE,
CE.
and the Great Fire in Rome in 80 CE that destroyed a substantial part of the city. The Jews considered those disasters as a punishment from God, who punished the Roman people because they have destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem and have started the exile of the Jewish people away from Judea after barely 2 years in power. Titus died of a fever on September 13th, 81 CE.
So this is Titus and Vespasian. This is just a little history talking about the Father and the Son and the events that occurred. Guess what? After the New Testament.
After.
They ain't teaching you the battles and the skirmishes, who was the emperor, what is the real context of the New Testament. And then you're not hearing about any of the wars and the battles that happened after the death of Peter and Paul
Mm-hmm.
written in these stories,
That's
right?
right.
If there are other books, they say these other books are not canonical,
Not
right?
canonical.
The gospel of this, the gospel of that, they call them what? Lost books, right? So now that you see all of that history and context, then and you see typology, you see all of these things, where am I headed towards, right? We start seeing that Tacitus and Sinaiticus and all of these historians and writers in Oregon and all these fathers of the Bible, all these guys are the ones writing and telling the history in the scriptures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go into this Zondervan Bible dictionary, you know, it says here, the book of the Apocrypha, the books of the Apocrypha are all late in date and are in Greek, though at least one, Sirach, had a Hebrew origin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more scholarly of the church fathers. Now, listen to these first church fathers. These be the authors, right? Melito, Origen, Athanasius, Jerome, Sinaiticus, Tacitus, all these different Greco-Roman guys are the ones that are telling the story of the history of this book. Let's continue and look at Jerusalem, right? Let's keep going just a little bit further, right? Mark chapter 13, verse 3 and 4. Mark chapter 13, verse 3 and 4. Go ahead.
As he sat upon the Mount of Olives.
Who is he?
Over against the temple.
Who is that? Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go ahead.
Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately.
What they say?
Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled?
All of my young adult and adult life, even when I got into Hebrew Christendom and I was at this other Hebrew church, listen, everybody goes to Matthew 24, starts talking about the signs of the time. That starts talking about the latter days, false Christ, false prophets coming, the doomsday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Starts talking about the horrible signs that we got to look for the return of Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what they're asking. Same thing. Mark 13 is talking about the same thing in Matthew 24. When are these things supposed to happen, right? We in here having a beautiful Shabbat. I'm just looking out the window. I see it got dark and it's light again. Hey, whatever happened, not watching the news, not worried about it. If the sky cracked and one was taken and one was left behind, I don't know. We ain't at them kind of churches that was open today waiting on the rapture. That wasn't what we was waiting on today.
That's right.
We in here learning the truth about when these things were to happen, because if they already happened, why are you guys looking for them, right? So let's go to Matthew chapter 24 and let's pick up the story. So his apostles asked the same thing at the beginning of Matthew 24. When are these things supposed to take place? So let's read Matthew 24, 3 to 31. Go ahead.
And also, Salakia. And as he sat up on the Mount of Olives.
I'm sure there's a lot of Christian churches reading this today. Go ahead.
The disciples came unto him privately saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
Sounds like Mark's author and Matthew's author kind of got the same story, right?
Yes,
go ahead.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you.
Read again.
Take heed that no man deceive you.
The man, the beast, the number of the beast, the name of the beast. Many of y'all and many of our family and billions of people today have just been deceived by the Diablos. Go ahead.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ.
Y'all need to come to church today. Go ahead.
And shall deceive many.
The sun gonna be darkened. The prophecies is coming to the end. It's the end of the world today. Go ahead.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars.
Yeah, this eclipse happened in 1811. It was earthquakes and it was floods and it changed the whole landscape of the world. You had all kind of people on the internet prognosticating and prophesying about what was going to happen today, instead of teaching you how to get ready for true salvation and stop falling for the okie doke. Go ahead.
See that ye be not troubled, For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
The end is not yet. It's been wars. It was wars before Jesus was made and created. It was wars after he was made and created. It's been wars for thousands of years. Yeah, man is just trying to take resources, and somebody just woke up one day and said, I want to rule the other people. And it's just the evil and savagery and the beastly nature of man. Go ahead.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places.
Them cicadas going to come up out of the ground in Illinois. Is going to eat up all the crops. They don't need that to cause shortage. They just got to stop the trucks from bringing food to your grocery store. And you're going to say it's a famine. Instead of bringing it to the grocery store, they're going to keep taking it to their underground bunkers. Food didn't go nowhere. They're just not giving it to you in the stores.
That's right.
Right? They don't have to sink tankers and dry up the Mississippi and blow up bridges. They're just doing all of that to keep you naive people thinking that this is why you are running out of food and there ain't enough cans on the shelf. Go ahead.
All these are the beginning of sorrow. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
Why we need to be hated by all nations for Jesus' sake? I think we're more hated because the color of our skin, because you follow Jesus Christ. You more hated because of the car you drive, the house you live in, the clothes you wear. Before you even open your mouth, people hate you. You understand? Go ahead.
And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another.
That's going on. It ain't got to do nothing because you're a Christian or your denominational belief. Go ahead.
And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many.
Why do false prophets rise up? Because false prophets want the power. They want the control. They want the manipulation. They want the money. They want the women. Go ahead.
And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold.
Go ahead.
But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved.
Go ahead.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
Go ahead.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth it, let him understand.
Go ahead.
Let them which be in Jerusalem flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day.
Go ahead.
For then shall a great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
They told y'all that was the day.
That was today.
They telling y'all that was in 2012.
That was in 2012.
They told y'all that was in 2000.
2000.
Everybody keep trying to predetermine and prognosticate
2017.
when this is going to be, and they're not telling you it's already happened. They're just using this to keep us scared. This has already happened. Go ahead.
And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened.
Go ahead.
Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not.
Every year there's somebody new somewhere in the world saying that they are the Christ. Go ahead.
For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs.
What's
and
a
wonders.
Christ? A Christ is nothing but an anointed person. So there are going to be many anointed people and false Christ. So they're going to not be teaching what was in the Old Testament, and they're not going to be teaching what the authors in the New Testament say Jesus came to do or Paul came to teach. Everybody that is a false prophet. Yeah, it was many people in the world when this was written that didn't believe that Jesus is. They didn't even know nothing about him in the whole world. Now they saying this is going to be future. No, this already happened. Go ahead.
In so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect.
Go ahead.
Behold, I've told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers. Believe it not.
Listen, he is in the desert. How does that apply to us now? What
In
desert?
the desert.
What does the Sahara Desert got to do with us? Or the Mojave Desert or anywhere that there ain't a desert in this world today, right? We talking in the context of Judea. What desert? The Arab desert or the Sahara Desert? This prophecy is in the context of Judea and the people that are there. That are there when? That was there back then. When did people flee? They fled in 70 AD. Where we gonna flee to now? Where we going?
We know where to go.
So you got all these preachers trying to add these prophecies into now, and we gonna flee into this place and that place. This stuff has already happened. This is the prophecy of 70 AD and what is about to come, what the Flavians brought in. Go ahead.
For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is,
what Son of Man? Vespasian. Titus. There'll be a man, Son of Man, born of flesh, that's going to come and destroy the holy temple. Go ahead.
For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together.
Go ahead.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
They making that today. I don't know why you want to shoot rockets at the firmament or try to shoot them into the eclipse or cut on the CERN God particle or the blackout stars and ruin the oxygen and the water, everything we need to survive. Why is there a man and people out there hell bent on destroying it? It don't make no sense
at all.
So after those days of Titus, then what happened? Did that happen? Right? Because the Jews say that happened in Mount Vesuvius. They said that happened when Rome burnt down. Go ahead.
And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
See, it sounds great when you read that and you think Matthew wrote it. But what if it was written by your oppressor? They say the Greeks wrote the New Testament. Why would the Hebrew Elyone that said the children of Israel are my chosen seed, they are my people, and there's none else? Why would he use Greek authors to write new stories and prophecies?
Don't make sense.
They want you to believe Matthew wrote it. But then the historians say this was a Greek text. This was not written in Hebrew. Listen to what I said. It was not written in Hebrew. A Hebrew did not author this story.
That's right.
A Hebrew did not author the stories in this New Testament. So who wrote these stories? Let's keep going. So the wall's going to be torn down. Famines, pestilence. Let's go to Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19, we're going to read verse 41 to 44. God, let's look at it. We look at Mark. Let's look at Luke. Let's look at Matthew. Luke chapter 19, verse 41 to 44. Go ahead when you get it out.
And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it.
So Jesus was coming into Jerusalem and he started crying. And he said what?
Saying, if thou hast known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes.
Go ahead.
For the days shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee around, and keep thee in on every side.
What city they gonna do that in today?
It can only be done in Jerusalem.
This is talking about the same thing we just read in the previous. We just read that in what was that? Matthew? Matthew 24. We talking about the same time period, except he talking about the same latter days, but he's saying there's going to be a time that this peace you have now, you need to enjoy it, because there's going to come a time where this whole city is going to be surrounded and entrenched. Verse 44.
And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
Y'all didn't know the time of y'all visitation. Y'all didn't know that there was gonna come an army to visit y'all and encompass the holy city around about. Click the next slide, please. They was gonna surround the whole city of Jerusalem. Nobody was getting in and nobody was getting out. This is the story of what Titus did in 70 AD. He starved them out. He kept all water, and he used the Edomites to go in and out and find deserters to try to find weaknesses to tear down the walls. Y'all hear me? This already happened. Now, we're in Luke 19 now, go to chapter 21. Luke 21. I'm telling y'all, this stuff already happened. This was written, these authors wrote this 300-400 years in the future. They predated and told the story to really define and benefit them. Y'all understand the New Testament is written in a way to glorify the Romans. It's to demean and demoralize the Israelites. You understand? To show the division between the people. They gave a Messiah. They didn't want to receive our Messiah. You know what I mean? This is a story told by an author that wrote it years after the life of these people supposed to existed. But you got people out there say these people never existed. Who knows if they did or didn't? But we'll get to that later. Luke 21, verse 20. Go ahead.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies.
Same time period. Same thing in Matthew 24. Same thing in Luke 19. We talking about same time period. He's still telling the story when he saw Jerusalem crying. The author is still telling a same elaborate story, right? The armies, what armies? At the point he's telling his disciples this, Rome still is in control of Judea, but they haven't brought any armies against it in years. You understand? They already just took over the power from the Greeks. There was no need for a major military presence until 70 AD because the Jews was fighting to get out from under the colonization and oppression of the Romans. Yeah, the same Romans, they view Christianity, Jesus, and canonized the Bible. The same Latins. Go ahead.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
These are the days of visitation. This is what the whole Gospels was talking about, the whole prophecy, the stuff Jesus was talking about. These things, Matthew 24, already happened. Go ahead.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people.
When is he talking about? When when Jerusalem is compassed by an army. Yeah, they're at war there now, but I mean this is already happened. This is already an event that has already happened. They can't tell you today in 24, women be worried, don't be in the days of suckle with child, when tribulation comes. The tribulation has already happened. It's already happened. Go ahead.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And it still haven't been
The
fulfilled.
Gentiles still running everything.
Listen, the Gentiles wasn't removed. Listen, these Gentiles was removed by the Arabs, another Gentile, and then they was removed by another Gentile, and they still, Jerusalem is still being trodden down. But listen, the writers of this book is backdating it, right? They are writing Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John from a future tense where there is more emperors and Rome is still in control of Judea. At this point that this was written, guess what? The Romans haven't brought an army against Judea.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't even happened yet. But when it did happen, nobody taught this. And then the people that are still talking about it, they still saying that this period is still extended. We still going through all of this stuff now, and we still waiting on Jesus to come back. But Jesus already came.
Yep. Came and died.
Says the story. How you going to keep looking for somebody to come that's already came? So what was Paul them talking about? What was Acts and the Gospels talking about? What are those tribulations stuff? It still was in between 70 AD. Matthew, all the way to Revelations is not up to 70 AD. We said Nero, Romans, Corinthians, Ephesus. All of them was written in the time of Paul's life. So now that leads you to Revelations. We still end at Nero.
Mm-hmm.
This Bible ends at Nero.
Mm-hmm.
It don't talk about the Greeks between the Persian captivity and the Romans. And then it ends at Nero. Are y'all listening to me? Y'all got glasses. Y'all outside looking up at the sky. Let's see what it say in Babylon and Timbuktu, verse 40.
Thousands of Jews migrated to Egypt and Arabia when the Roman general Titus destroyed the city of Jerusalem.
Stop. What did Matthew 24 say? The people was going to flee.
Yeah.
This happened in 70 AD. It didn't happen when so-called Jesus was talking in Matthew 24. But the author is telling a story chronologically from the future. I'm just retelling a story in an event that happened. It's like me telling the telling a story about 9/11, but I'm telling it from my viewpoint in 2024.
Right.
Or the Iran war, or what happened with Bin Laden and Saddam. I'm telling it from the future.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Titus destroyed the city of Jerusalem AD 70 when the Jews revolted AD 130. Emperor Hadrian dispatched General Julius Servius to Palestine to suppress the revolt. The persecution and restrictions imposed on the Jews were so great that a large number of Jews fled into Arabia. The tradition of the colored Yemenite Jews.
That's good. So listen, there was battles in Judea before the Flavian rule, during the Claudian Julian rule. And guess what? Even after Titus died, then comes Hadrian. It's still battles going on. It's still revolts going on, right? It's a place that's still at war 2,000 years. Supposedly, even today, it's still battles going over there. What does it say on page 84 in the Babylon and Timbuktu?
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem in 70 AD. General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors, great slaughter.
So you writing a story back telling Jesus, telling him, hey, there's going to be, you better enjoy this peace because they're going to come great day of vengeance and visitation in the future. You see how the author can tell you what's going to happen because it's already happened.
Already happened, man.
Y'all hear what I'm saying? They trying to make Jesus prophetic, but the authors that wrote the book are telling the story from the future.
They telling Jesus what to tell you.
Go ahead.
Man. Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of Black Jewish slaves.
Black Jewish slaves. Listen, we're going to stop right there. We're going to stop right there. Part 4. We're going to pick up part 5 next week. Break down some numbers. We're going to go even deeper. And I think next week we'll be able to reveal, if I'm not wrong, who the author of the New Testament is, who wrote the book, and who created Jesus. Because they already saying he was born December 25th, 4 BC.
4 BC.
He died in 33 AD on April the what?
On April 3rd.
Sisters and brothers, if you're following along, hope you've been able to remove the distractions that's been going on today. Keep your mind focused on the Most High, studying his word to reveal the truth. The truth will set you free. If you truly want to be free indeed. What does freedom look like? We'll get to that in a future lesson too. What it should look like. Because it doesn't still give you a license to sin. We still got the commandments. We still know how we're supposed to behave ourselves, conduct ourselves. Why are you doing this lesson? I don't want to be deceived, and I don't want my children to grow up in a lie.
Absolutely.
So I don't want you to be deceived, and I don't want you to continue the charade that's been laid before us. We'll put the information out. You do with it as you please. Those that truly follow us and support us, we appreciate you and all that you do, your prayers or whatever you donate into the ministry. We thank you. Today marks the end of this conjunction month. Tomorrow will be the new moon, which is actually the new beginning of the lunar year, which we use to actually find your feast days.
Absolutely.
You could not have you could not start your count until this point. So I know the Christians have already had their Easters. Many Hebrews have already had theirs. But we believe we are truly on the right path of the Most High and how to count his days and use his calendar. So tomorrow will be the new moon. Depending on where you're at, I hope you can look up and see the new moon. Today, even if there wasn't any eclipse, it would have just been a conjunction, a dark moon. Don't know how you can see a dark moon.
Right. Can't. But okay.
You can't. And we already know Enoch said you got to see the first sliver of light, March day 1. Whether we see it or not, our calculations already put it to tomorrow. So we'll say happy new beginnings. Be blessed. Start your count there. We know we'll have Passover on the 22nd.
Yes.
Unleavened bread lesson on the 23rd. Most High say the same. We'll see you next week on the 8th day of the first month of the lunar calendar, which we use to find our feast days. And 7 days after that, we'll be in unleavened bread.
That's right.
So we'll get ready for that. Most I say the same. You'll see us delivering his word, putting out part 5. Pray there won't be a part 6. But after we get done with this series, we're going to go right into a lesson on Maka'al, delivering a lesson on King David. So we'll see you then. Let's stand, let's close out with the reading of the scripture coming from 1 Maccabees. But it's 2nd chapter, right?
Yes,
verse 22. Go ahead, close us out.
Verse 24. Salaki.
24. Go ahead.
O El, O Elyone, creator of all things, who art fearful and strong, and righteous and merciful, and the only and gracious King, the only giver of all things, the only just Almighty and everlasting, thou that deliverest Israel from all trouble, and didst choose the fathers and sanctify them. Receive the sacrifice for thy whole people Israel, and preserve thine own portion and sanctify it. Gather those together that are scattered from us. Deliver them that serve among the heathen. Look upon them that are despised and abhorred, and let the heathen know that thou art Elyone. Punish them that oppress us, and with pride do us wrong. Plant thy people again in thy holy place, as Moses has spoken.
Halal El.
Halal El.
Halal El Elyone.
Halal El Elyone.
Halal El Shaddai.
Halal El Shaddai.
Halal El.
Halal El.
Halal El Elyone.
Halal El Elyone.
Halal El Shaddai.
Halal El Shaddai.
Sisters and brothers, that's our lesson for today. May the Most High bless you and keep you till we see each other again. Shalom.
Shalom.